The Houston Rockets still deserve a place among the NBA's top starting lineups heading into the 2027 season. Even after a disappointing finish to last year, their projected starting five are Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Kevin Durant, and Alperen Sengun gives Houston an impressive mix of experience, size, defense, and scoring. The biggest question surrounding this team is whether they can finally become a consistently efficient offensive group. They looked like legitimate championship contenders during the first half of last season, playing with confidence and climbing near the top of the Western Conference. But as the year progressed, their offense stalled, possessions became predictable, and their late-game execution completely fell apart. Much of the criticism landed on Kevin Durant because defenses frequently trapped him, forcing the ball out of his hands. However, placing all the blame on Durant ignores larger problems that existed throughout the organization. Houston's offensive system often failed to create easy opportunities. Head coach Ime Udoka repeatedly leaned on difficult isolation possessions and late-clock post-ups, instead of building an offense around Durant's elite scoring ability. At the same time, Sengun was frequently asked to become the primary offensive creator in crunch time, putting enormous pressure on a young player still developing his decision-making against elite defenses. Those coaching decisions limited the team's overall offensive flow and allowed opponents to predict what Houston wanted to do. Despite those concerns, Houston still enters a new season with enormous potential because Fred VanVleet returns as the steady veteran leader this roster desperately needs. Few guards in today's NBA protect the basketball better than VanVleet. His ability to organize teammates, control tempo, and consistently make the correct decision gives Houston something it lacked whenever games became chaotic. Instead of every possession turning into an isolation attempt, VanVleet can slow the game down, get teammates into proper positions, and make sure Durant and Sengun receive the ball in favorable situations. That type of leadership rarely appears in highlight reels, but often determines which talented teams actually become championship contenders. The offense. Overall depth. Rick Carlisle continues Andre ball handling, while Aaron Nesmith continues proving himself as one of the league's most underrated two-way wings. Nesmith has become an extremely valuable player because he combines reliable perimeter shooting with relentless defensive effort, frequently taking on difficult assignments against elite scorers. Pascal Siakam continues serving as Indiana's most complete veteran. During the regular season, he provides reliable scoring and versatility, but once playoff basketball begins, his value often increases dramatically. His experience, physicality, defensive flexibility, and ability to create offense in half-court situations give Indiana a dependable option whenever games slow down and transition opportunities disappear. The biggest debate surrounding Indiana centers on new starting center Ivica Zubac. Viewed individually, Zubac may currently be a stronger overall player than Miles Turner. He's one of the NBA's best rebounders, finishes efficiently around the basket, and provides excellent interior defense. The question isn't whether Zubac is talented. The question is whether his strengths match the offensive identity that made Indiana so successful over the last several seasons. Miles Turner's ability to stretch defenses with perimeter shooting created enormous space for Halliburton to operate. Defenders couldn't simply camp near the basket because Turner consistently punished them from outside. That spacing opened driving lanes, created cutting opportunities, and allowed Indiana's motion offense to flourish. Zubac plays a completely different style. He operates primarily near the basket as a screener, roller, rebounder, and post player. Opposing defenses will likely feel more comfortable leaving him outside the paint, potentially shrinking the driving lanes that Indiana previously enjoyed. That doesn't mean the experiment will fail. Rick Carlisle has consistently proven himself as one of basketball's smartest offensive coaches, and Halliburton remains among the league's most creative playmakers. They may redesign portions of the offense to maximize Zubac's strengths instead of asking him to replace Turner directly. Even so, until that new system proves itself over an entire season, there remains some uncertainty about how smoothly the transition will unfold. The Cleveland Cavaliers round out this section with a lineup featuring James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. Assuming Harden returns, Cleveland possesses one of the league's most dangerous offensive backcourts. Last season, Harden and Mitchell gradually learned how to complement each other's strengths despite having very little time together. Another full offseason, Complete training camp and months of preparation should dramatically improve their chemistry. Mitchell remains one of basketball's elite scorers, while Harden continues creating offense at an exceptional level through his passing, pick-and-roll play, and ability to manipulate defenses. Defenses will struggle to contain both creators throughout an entire game. Behind them, Evan Mobley continues evolving into one of the NBA's premier defensive players while expanding his offensive game each season. Jarrett Allen provides dependable interior defense, rebounding, and efficient finishing around the basket. One player who could quietly become extremely important is Jalen Tyson. He doesn't receive nearly as much national attention as Cleveland stars, but his willingness to defend, knock down perimeter shots, and accept whatever role the team needs makes him invaluable. Every championship contender eventually depends on players who embrace the difficult, unselfish responsibilities that rarely make headlines. Tyson appears capable of becoming exactly that kind of player, helping Cleveland maintain balance around its superstar talent while contributing winning plays on both ends of the floor. Cleveland's starting lineup has enough star power to compete with anyone, but it also comes with one major challenge. James Harden and Donovan Mitchell both need the ball in their hands to be at their best, while Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen do most of their work around the paint. That leaves Jalen Tyson with one of the most important jobs on the roster. He doesn't need to score 20 points every night. His value comes from doing everything else. Cleveland needs him to knock down open catch-and-shoot three-pointers, defend the opponent's best perimeter players, make hustle plays, chase loose balls, and quietly handle the responsibilities that allow the stars to shine. Championship teams always need role players willing to sacrifice individual numbers, and Tyson has a chance to become exactly that type of player. Behind the stars, Mobley and Allen remain the foundation of Cleveland's defense. Mobley continues developing into one of basketball's elite defenders because of his ability to guard multiple positions, rotate quickly, and erase mistakes made by teammates. Allen provides consistency in the middle by protecting the rim, rebounding, and finishing efficiently around the basket. Together, they give Cleveland one of the strongest defensive front courts in the league, allowing the guards to gamble more aggressively knowing they have elite rim protection waiting behind them. The Cavaliers also have flexibility with their rotations. Instead of keeping the same 5 players together for long stretches, they can stagger minutes, so Donovan Mitchell spends more time leading lineups alongside Mobley, while James Harden operates with Jarrett Allen. That creates 2 different guard-big combinations throughout the game and prevents the offense from completely collapsing whenever one star heads to the bench. It also gives Cleveland 48 minutes of experienced playmaking, which should help them pile up regular season wins and remain near the top of the Eastern Conference standings. The regular season, however, has never been Cleveland's biggest concern. The real questions begin once the playoffs arrive. That's where the Harden-Mitchell pairing becomes much more complicated. Both players are exceptional offensive creators, but neither is considered an elite perimeter defender at this stage of his career. When they share the floor together against playoff opponents loaded with elite scorers, the pressure shifts directly onto role players like Tyson to cover difficult defensive assignments every possession. That creates matchup problems that become much harder to hide during a 7-game playoff series. We already watched something similar happen during Cleveland's previous postseason run against New York. The Cavaliers repeatedly closed games with Harden and Mitchell together, even when additional defensive size would have made far more sense. Dean Wade and Max Struss both offered stronger defensive options, yet Cleveland continued trusting its veteran stars instead of making the difficult adjustment. The coaching staff appeared unwilling to reduce Harden's minutes in critical moments, even when the matchup clearly called for more defense than offense. That hesitation ultimately hurt the team, and there's legitimate concern it could happen again when playoff basketball becomes physical and every possession matters. Championship contenders often face difficult decisions involving star players. Sometimes the correct basketball move means sitting a future Hall of Famer for a few defensive possessions or reducing someone's minutes to create a better matchup. Cleveland has not consistently shown the willingness to make those uncomfortable decisions. Talent alone rarely wins championships. Coaching flexibility, accountability, and putting the team ahead of individual reputations often separate champions from contenders. Until Cleveland proves it can make those adjustments under playoff pressure, questions about its postseason ceiling will remain. The Toronto Raptors come in next with projected lineup of Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Kawhi Leonard, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl, assuming the reported Kawhi Leonard deal becomes reality. If that move happens, Toronto immediately transforms into one of the league's most intriguing teams. Personally, replacing Jakob Poeltl with Colin Murray-Boyles would make this lineup even stronger because it would create more versatility and improve defensive flexibility. However, Toronto may prefer keeping Poeltl in the starting lineup for business reasons. If they eventually decide to move him before the trade deadline, showcasing him as a starting center keeps his value much higher than bringing him off the bench. Even with Poeltl starting, Toronto's front court could become one of the NBA's most difficult groups to deal with. Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, remains one of basketball's most efficient two-way players. Scotty Barnes has continued evolving every season, and increasingly looks like the ideal second star rather than the player expected to carry an entire offense alone. Barnes showed significant growth as a passer last season, displaying much better court vision and decision-making. Playing next to Kawhi should allow him to focus on creating advantages without carrying every offensive possession himself. The backcourt also has plenty of upside. R.J. Barrett quietly put together one of the strongest seasons of his career, showing improved efficiency and confidence. Emmanuel quickly has experienced an inconsistent stretch since arriving in Toronto, but injuries and constant lineup changes certainly played a role. If he finally receives a healthy season alongside a more stable roster, Toronto may finally see the version of Quickly it believed it was acquiring. Behind them, Jamal Shead and Jacoby Walter provide additional depth and energy, giving the Raptors multiple options throughout the backcourt rotation. The biggest question remains Jakob Poeltl. Just a season ago, many analysts viewed him as one of basketball's most underrated centers because of his screening, passing, rebounding, and efficient finishing. Last season, however, injuries, particularly back problems, appear to reduce his overall impact. While he still contributes as a pick-and-roll finisher and connective passer, his defensive mobility became a growing concern. Against quicker lineups, opponents frequently force him into uncomfortable situations away from the basket. When you focus only on Miami's starting lineup, it's easy to understand why so many people believe this team could become one of the Eastern Conference's biggest threats. Davion Mitchell has quietly developed into one of the NBA's toughest point-of-attack defenders. Every night he picks up opposing guards the full length of the floor, pressures ball handlers into mistakes, and forces offenses to start every possession under stress. That type of relentless defense rarely shows up in the box score, but it changes games by disrupting rhythm before plays even begin. Next to him is Andrew Wiggins, a player who has repeatedly shown that his value rises dramatically once the postseason arrives. Throughout his career, Wiggins has accepted difficult defensive assignments against elite scorers while still contributing offensively when needed. He has the length, athleticism, and experience to defend multiple positions, giving Miami tremendous flexibility whenever opponents try creating favorable matchups. Then comes the heart of the defense. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo together might become the most versatile defensive front court in basketball. Both players can switch on to smaller guards, protect the rim, recover quickly, and erase mistakes made by teammates. Few teams possess even one defender capable of covering every area of the floor. Miami could have two. That combination allows Eric Spoelstra to experiment with almost any defensive scheme because both stars can comfortably handle multiple responsibilities during the same possession. The only obvious defensive concern inside the starting five is Tim Hardaway Jr., while he doesn't provide the same defensive impact as the rest of the lineup. His offensive value could prove just as important. Miami desperately needs reliable perimeter shooting to create space for Giannis. Hardaway finished near the top of the Sixth Man of the Year voting because he consistently punished defenses from beyond the arc. His presence forces defenders to stay attached on the perimeter instead of collapsing into the paint every time Giannis attacks. That single adjustment could dramatically improve Miami's half-court spacing. Defensively, this group appears capable of matching up against virtually any style of opponent. Smaller guards can be handled by Davion Mitchell. Elite wings have to deal with Andrew Wiggins. Bigger forwards and centers run directly into Giannis and Bam Adebayo, waiting near the basket. Very few teams can honestly claim to have quality answers for every type of superstar scorer. Miami's projected starting lineup comes remarkably close. That defense should immediately create easier offense. When Miami forces turnovers, steals, or difficult shots, Giannis becomes almost impossible to contain in transition. Once he gets a full head of steam attacking the basket, defenders usually have only three choices: commit a foul, give up a powerful dunk, or leave another shooter wide open. Those fast break opportunities could become one of Miami's biggest offensive weapons throughout the season. The half-court offense still raises legitimate questions. While Giannis can dominate in transition, playoff basketball often slows into half-court possessions where every basket becomes difficult. That's where Miami still needs another reliable creator capable of organizing the offense, breaking down defenses, and generating quality shots when everything becomes stagnant. A veteran scorer who can consistently create from a mid-range or operate effectively late in the shot clock would solve one of the roster's few remaining weaknesses. Even without that additional creator, however, Miami's defensive ceiling remains high enough to justify placing this lineup among the NBA's elite starting units. Defense consistently travels during the playoffs, and few teams project to defend at Miami's potential level. Moving into the top four, the Philadelphia 76ers become one of the league's most fascinating teams after adding LeBron James. Their projected starting lineup of Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and Joel Embiid immediately becomes one of basketball's most talented collections of players. There's no question Philadelphia improved dramatically by adding LeBron. The offense instantly becomes more organized, more efficient, and significantly more dangerous than it appeared before the move. The biggest weakness Philadelphia carried into the offseason was its lack of elite playmaking. Tyrese Maxey is an outstanding scorer, but creating offense for others has never been his greatest strength. VJ Edgecombe remains extremely young and still learning NBA decision-making. Jaylen Brown has developed into an excellent scorer, but has never been viewed as an elite facilitator. Joel Embiid can create offense from the post, but he isn't the type of center who consistently organizes an entire offensive system. LeBron changes all of that immediately. Even entering his 24th NBA season, he remains one of basketball's smartest offensive playmakers. He instantly gives Philadelphia someone capable of reading defenses before they develop, finding open teammates, controlling tempo, and creating easy scoring opportunities that previously didn't exist. Whether he's running pick and rolls with Embiid, creating transition opportunities for Maxey, or leading second-unit lineups, LeBron provides exactly what this roster lacked. Imagine the combinations available to Philadelphia now. LeBron and Embiid working together in the pick-and-roll forces defenses into nearly impossible decisions. If defenders help on Embiid, LeBron finds open shooters. If they stay attached to shooters, Embiid gets favorable scoring opportunities near the basket. Maxey benefits because he no longer needs to initiate every offensive possession himself, allowing him to focus more energy on attacking defenses as a scorer. However, adding LeBron also creates an entirely different challenge. Philadelphia suddenly has multiple players accustomed to carrying offenses. Maxey became the primary option for stretches last season. Joel Embiid has always expected to be the franchise centerpiece whenever healthy. Jaylen Brown spent years functioning as one of Boston's primary scorers. LeBron James, despite his age, still remains one of basketball's greatest offensive decision-makers. LeBron James can still compete defensively, but the reality is that entering his 24th NBA season, nobody truly knows how much he can consistently give on that end over an entire year. Last season, he remained a smart team defender, using his basketball IQ to anticipate plays, rotate into passing lanes, and communicate with teammates. However, he no longer covers the floor with the same speed he once did during his prime years. That isn't criticism. It's simply the reality of a player who has logged more NBA minutes than almost anyone in league history. Philadelphia will likely ask him to conserve energy during the regular season, so he can deliver maximum effort when the playoffs begin. Joel Embiid also raises legitimate defensive concerns. While he remains an intimidating presence around the basket when healthy, he simply isn't the same rim protector he was several years ago. Injuries have limited both his mobility and availability, making it more difficult for him to dominate defensively over long stretches. Philadelphia will need to carefully manage his workload because their championship hopes rise and fall with his health more than any other player on the roster. Even with those questions, the ceiling remains enormous. If LeBron fully embraces a reduced role, Embiid stays healthy, and every star commits to sacrificing individual numbers, Philadelphia absolutely has enough talent to finish at the top of the Eastern Conference. The encouraging part is that the personalities involved seem prepared for that challenge. LeBron has openly discussed sacrificing more responsibility if it helps another championship run. Embiid already showed last season that he was willing to step aside at times to let Tyrese Maxey become the offensive leader. Jaylen Brown publicly pushed for Philadelphia to pursue LeBron, signaling that he understands winning matters more than personal statistics. Still, there are reasons to hesitate before placing the 76ers above the NBA's very best teams. Compared with the three teams ahead of them, Philadelphia lacks the same defensive identity, roster continuity, and natural chemistry. Basketball only has one ball. For players who have spent years leading offenses must now share every possession. That adjustment could become one of the biggest storylines of the season. Talent alone doesn't automatically produce championships. Everyone must accept changing roles, different shot totals, and occasional sacrifices. Until that chemistry is proven on the floor, it's difficult to rank Philadelphia above the league's most complete teams. At number 3 sits the Oklahoma City Thunder, featuring Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Cason Wallace, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Isaiah Hartenstein. On paper, this group might actually be stronger than last season's starting lineup despite losing Lou Dort. Cason Wallace quietly brings more offensive versatility than Dort. He's a better perimeter shooter, more comfortable handling the basketball, and creates additional transition opportunities without sacrificing much defensively. Wallace didn't make the offensive leap many expected during the regular season, but his playoff performances reminded everyone why Oklahoma City believes he can become a long-term starter. One overlooked fact about the Thunder is how rarely their biggest stars have actually been healthy together. 2 seasons ago, Chet Holmgren missed almost the entire regular season before returning for the playoffs, and Oklahoma City still managed to win the championship. Last season, Jalen Williams battled multiple injuries, including hamstring issues and a lingering hand problem that limited him throughout much of the year. Even with those setbacks, the Thunder still reached the Western Conference Finals. That should be frightening for the rest of the league because Oklahoma City's true ceiling may not have been seen yet. If Shai, Holmgren, and Williams finally spend an entire season healthy together, the Thunder could become even more dangerous than the championship team everyone already respects. Jalen Williams continues developing into one of basketball's most complete young stars. Many fans still underestimate his all-around game because so much attention naturally goes towards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But Williams contributes as a scorer, secondary playmaker, defender, rebounder, and clutch performer. This is the same player who exploded for 40 points in the NBA Finals and has repeatedly demonstrated he can perform on the biggest stage. Defensively, Williams may now inherit many of the difficult assignments previously handled by Lou Dort. While Dort was one of basketball's toughest perimeter defenders, Williams provides significantly more offensive production while remaining capable of guarding elite scorers. That balance could ultimately make Oklahoma City an even more complete team. Everything still revolves around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. After another MVP-level campaign, there is little reason to believe his production will suddenly decline. His ability to control pace, create efficient offense, and dominate late-game situations remains one of the biggest advantages any team possesses. Every championship contender needs a superstar capable of carrying an offense when everything else breaks down. Oklahoma City unquestionably has that player. Chet Holmgren remains one of the most fascinating pieces in the NBA. Against most opponents, he looked outstanding. His length, shooting, shot blocking, and versatility create matchup nightmares. The glaring exception came against Victor Wembanyama and San Antonio. That series exposed Holmgren's lack of strength against bigger, more physical front courts. Unfortunately for Oklahoma City, the Spurs could become one of their biggest rivals moving forward. Holmgren still needs additional muscle, improved interior strength, and continued offensive development to consistently dominate those types of matchups. The New York Knicks earned the second spot because their starting lineup finally became everything the organization hoped it would be. Just one season earlier, many analysts questioned whether this group could ever win at the highest level. The chemistry looked inconsistent, The offense sometimes stalled, and critics wondered if too many players were sacrificing their natural games. Then everything changed. Under new leadership, the offense became far more organized. The ball moved with purpose, and every player embraced a clearly defined role. 12 months later, that same lineup wasn't just surviving. It was holding up the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Mikal Bridges became one of the biggest reasons for that transformation. Night after night, he delivered efficient scoring without forcing the offense while continuing to guard the opposing team's toughest perimeter players. His ability to contribute on both ends gave New York tremendous flexibility. When Brunson needed help creating offense, Bridges stepped up. When the Knicks needed a defensive stop against an elite scorer, Bridges accepted the assignment without hesitation. That balance made him one of the most valuable two-way wings in basketball. Josh Hart continued proving why winning teams value players willing to do every small job. He attacked the glass against bigger opponents, pushed the ball in transition, defended multiple positions, and constantly made the extra pass instead of chasing personal statistics. Opponents repeatedly tried leaving him open to clog the lane, but throughout the postseason, Hart punished that strategy by knocking down timely three-pointers. Every made shot forced defenses to respect him, creating even more space for Brunson and Towns to operate. Karl Anthony Towns remained the player who made the entire offensive system possible. Very few centers can score from virtually every area of the floor the way Towns can. His ability to stretch defenses